Next up is another very common puppy and dog issue, and that is chewing. Now, we talked about them mouthing your hands, but we didn't talk as much about chewing other objects. So let's first of all recognize that it is super natural. They are not just gonna say, oh, I'm not a puppy anymore. I shouldn't chew on things, because dogs love to chew. There is oftentimes a peak of chewing when they are at the height of teething, but a lot of times their chewing patterns remain the same for their entire life. So if they're destructive now, they'll probably continue to be, but what we want to do is make sure that they are not destructing inappropriate items that are human items that we find important, our shoes, our clothing, furniture, etc. So we need to make sure that they have plenty of options for things to chew on. And oftentimes what that means is we catch them chewing on the wrong thing, we immediately go over and we replace it with something else. So puppies all have different preferences about what they want to chew on. Some puppies love nothing more than to chew on soft stuffed things, while other puppies are going to need a much harder version of chew or somewhere in between. But don't be scared to try things out. The other thing that happens with puppies is they often change their mind on a dime. So we need to have lots of options available for them. Remember, chew training is very similar to potty training, and if you cannot keep an eye on your puppy, manage their behavior by confining them somewhere safe with appropriate objects and or limiting their availability to other objects with baby gates and such. They may be given more unsupervised time as they grow up and start to know the difference, but just remember, right now your dog really doesn't know any better, and anything that they can put their mouth on, that's how they choose to explore the world. So they're just trying to learn. Everything that they're doing right now, they're trying to learn whether or not it works for them. And what we're trying to do is teach them, how about we don't chew on this, and instead you can chew on this. So for the dogs who like to have soft things to chew on, these are a good idea. They're stuffing free, and especially if they might get a little destructive, then we don't have too much fuzz cleanup. On the other hand, one of our favorite objects is a busybody bone, and they come in many different varieties, but this, as you can see, has just so much going on with it. This can be good for their dental health long term, because of the different textures they're chewing on, and also because you can get little flavor rings to put on them. So these are just 2 recommendations, although we have plenty to give you. Just ask. The next thing that we need to discuss is your puppy's activity level. Now everybody knows and everybody's heard a tired dog is a happy dog, but how do we achieve that? First thing we do is make sure that they are physically and mentally healthy, and that will help them stay out of trouble. So obviously physical exercise is going to keep them physically healthy. That's self-explanatory, but it can also affect their behavior quite a bit, especially different breeds, ones that are more prone to running and hurting or working as a puller, so many different things. Dogs started out living in the wild. It may have been thousands of years ago, but that's where they began. And then us silly humans brought them in their house and we're like, hey, hang out while I'm gone. And they're like, but I'm used to, or my species is used to having to forage for food and hunt and escape being somebody else's prey. That all takes a lot of energy. But instead, we hand them their bowl, we give them a couch, and expect them to fit in. And sometimes they do. But when it doesn't, we need to make sure that they are having ample physical exercise. So think about what you haven't done already and what you could do. Some examples might include play dates with friends, playing hide and go seek with them in the house, playing tug, playing fetch, different games like that. You might even consider hiring somebody to walk the puppy while you're at work, or use some puppy day stays with us. We love working with puppies. In a day stay, it means they come here, we actually train with them, and they potentially get to play with other puppies. So it's nothing but fun and positive learning for them. On the other side of that, as I just mentioned, it's the brain that needs to be worked as well. So that's another aspect in day training that we do, but it is so important. So let's just pretend that your child or ultimately your puppy is just laying around by themselves. They can't think of something to do. The boredom is eventually going to set in and they're going to find something to do. So even if you didn't provide that thing, they're going to do something with it. So they might occupy themselves with things that are less than appropriate, and we really don't want that. So we need to make sure that they aren't bored. We can do different training games with them, but training with them in general is a good idea. You can also do learn to earn or work to eat, which means that you use their kibble throughout the day to get them to reinforce different behaviors, and that's great because dogs in their ancestry have had to work for food. So it's completely normal for them. And it doesn't mean that you have to make them work for all of their food, but if you put a portion of their kibble aside and give it to them for good behaviors throughout the day, that will help exhaust their brains just a little bit more. So you can also consider putting their food into Kongs or treat balls just to make the experience a little more difficult. Puzzle toys are also great for this, or slow feeding bowls kind of serve the same purpose. So make them work for it in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through training or through fun. You can also make sure that when you do have to be away from them, you get some safe objects that they can engage with. Making sure, like I said, safety is very important because we need to know when we're with them what they are possibly going to be inappropriate with, so that we can keep those items as a supervised only plaything. Okay, next up is another training activity, something that we love to do, and this is called Say Please or automatic sitting. And what we have to start by doing is thinking about all the things that our dogs do or like to do or like to engage with, and pairing that with a nice sitting behavior. So if your dog wants something on the list, such as dinner, then we are going to wait for a very patient behavior from them. If they already know sit, you can encourage them to sit and then reward. But if they're not sure about sit yet, that's fine. Just reward them for being relaxed and not jumping or anything inappropriate. So this is going to help them be calm and learn not to do any inappropriate behaviors, and then we can reward them with the things they want. Again, their food is one, but attention is another, playtime is another, so just make sure before you start those things, your dog is being patient. Because remember, if they are being inappropriate and you follow through with reinforcement, they are learning now by consequence that if they act crazy, you'll take them for a walk. If they act crazy, you'll give them the food. If they act crazy, you'll play with them. And instead, we want them to be calm before those occur, so that we are teaching them in general. Being relaxed is the better way to be. Hang in there with me, we're almost done. So now let's think about what's going to happen when you come into class. And the first thing to consider is the rewards that you're going to bring with you. So first thing I want you to do is sit down now, grab a piece of paper. You can pause me again, I'll wait. When you come back, you are going to write down a list of things that your dog likes to eat. So let's just say there's kibble, there's pepperoni, there's a Zuke's treat, there's a dry bone. Whatever your dog prefers and the different kinds of treats you have exposed them to, write those down and rank them. What does your dog like the most, and what is towards the bottom of the list? Now, I hope that you have at least 3 to 5 options and you've exposed your puppy to much. But if you haven't, you know what? Get something that you think that they'll really enjoy and bring that to class so that it's exciting for them. Regardless, if you do have a good list and there's things that you know your puppy loves, you're going to bring the things that they love the most. So if they like their kibble at home but it's not super exciting, leave it at home. If they like their dry biscuits but not enough when there's distractions, leave those at home. Bring the high value objects so that we can reward them properly when they are working amongst friends and distractions of other sorts. Now I want you to consider other things to bring. We always have mats here for the puppies in their space that they're going to be hanging out, but because it's concrete floor, we do encourage that if you want to just bring a towel or some other soft surface to put down for them to make sure that they are comfortable, and also because we're really going to be working on reinforcing them settling down onto something, and if you're able to bring something that they can familiarize with, then you're going to be able to transport that with you to other places even as they grow and travel. Next up, you can consider bringing something to distract them, whether it be some sort of chewy toy like a Nylabone or a lightly stuffed Kong. If your dog has shown any sign of issues with food guarding, that might be something to avoid this time around. Lastly, bring your puppy on a flat collar. Martingales are perfectly acceptable if your dog needs to, or a harness. We do like front attach harnesses just because they are something that we've found helps to reduce pulling issues beginning in puppies. But we do not allow choke chains or along the same line, a slip lead that's going to tighten down onto their neck without stopping. We do not use prong collars or shock collars or anything that is going to be of a negative consequence to our puppies. After that, you're going to want to have your puppy on a appropriate length leash. 4 to 6 feet seems to be fine. No longer than that for this puppy class. Please do not use a flexi leash if you can avoid it. If you don't have anything but a flexi leash initially, you can use it, but you're going to want to keep it locked at a short distance rather than letting them run around entirely free. So the other thing to think about when you come here is you will check in and hand in your paperwork with your vaccinations. But also we are going to take you in and escort you to your seat. Make sure that you have your treats ready and your mat, and get him or her focused on you. Keep their leash short and don't do puppy greetings immediately. We're going to make those structured so that they understand they are allowed to make friends. We want them to make friends, but they shouldn't have to make friends with every dog. That's very important. So we will give them opportunities to play, just get them used to focusing on you first. We are so excited to get this class started with you guys. So please let us know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we look forward to meeting all of the puppies. Thank you for bearing with me. See you soon.